but also about just getting some high quality drawings, because it is a historical building. It's a measured drawing, so there are some kind of traditional ways of doing these things, and you can get Revit to do a lot of it for you. So let's just get started anyway. So I've downloaded the 3 files from Adrian's group: the beam system, the stairs, and the walls. So I'm just going to put them together using shared components to start with. So I'm just going to start a new base file. And this base file doesn't have anything in it at all, so I'm just going to insert all the individual elements into it. So let's just save it as a project, and we'll just call it composite example. So now I can go and insert link Revit. Now go to my downloads. You can find them. Downloads. So I'm going to start by putting in the beam system. Make sure it's by shared coordinates. Won't work the first time, but then it'll give you a message. So it's telling us this because there's no coordinates set up in this file yet. We just need to use this the initial structural thing to set that up. So we're going to go into manage again, coordinates, acquire coordinates, and then just take it from the structural model there. So then we can go in and do it again. Insert, link Revit, and we'll go into and take in the stairs. And because we got shared coordinates set up, they should pop up in exactly the right position, which they did. So that looks pretty good. And now we'll just take the last bit. We'll take the walls drawing. Now this is where you can start to use shared coordinates to actually quality assure the work, because you can see here that the walls and the roof and all that kind of stuff is not actually drawn in the correct plane as related to the structure. So if I just go in there and go to level 1, delete that, and I'm going to make a section through here, and we'll just flip it so it faces the stairs. We can see the arrows are facing the stairs there. And let's just turn up the scale to 1:20 so we get some decent level of detail. And we'll turn on the shaded view just so we can see what's going on. So you can see that actually the structural model here is biting into the overall model. You can see that the beams here are drawn at a slant, but the roof is just drawn as a flat roof. So there's inaccuracy in the walls and in the roof, the way the roof is built up here. And actually using the linked model is the way to get that stuff working. So whoever is working on the walls and the roof can modify them based on the structural drawing. So everything in some way has a relationship that works correctly. While we're here, I'm just going to have a look at some of the qualities of what we can do with the how this is displayed, because we've inserted several different linked models. And let's just stretch it at the top here just so we get the entire thing in. Because we've inserted several link models, there's a lot of levels and so on in here, which we don't necessarily need to display in the drawing. So we're actually looking to make a good drawing, a high quality drawing. So we can always come in here to the visibility and graphics, and come over to Revit links, and we can change the settings of the different links. So at the moment they're set to by host view, which is the settings of the actual project we're in. But we can go in there, press that button, and change it to a custom, or we can change it to linked view. But here we just want to change it to custom, because we just want to go into annotation categories, custom, and then switch off all the annotations from the different links. Whoops, don't want to do that one again. This one, custom, custom again, switch that off, and we'll just do it over here as well. So it's kind of cleaned it up a bit. And then we have these individual levels that are just in the drawing or in the project that we set up, and that so now we've got a kind of a clean drawing in there. So with a historical drawing, often you get different levels in different positions, and the model will, if it's well measured, will take care of all that for you. But we need to also annotate that. So we can go into the annotate tool here, and this is for when the model is finished. The annotate tool is actually the main thing you want to use from then on. So we can actually just click on spot elevation, and if I just lay that on top of the floor here, you see it starts to give us an actual value for wherever I'm placing it. So you can actually just click it there. You can put another one over here. Anywhere where there's an actual place where people will be standing, you can put a level on, so you can always be sure that you got it correct. So you can see it's a more elegant way of representing what's happening in a historical building than if you've got all these lines all over the place, because that works for office buildings or modern buildings. You tone it down a bit, but you don't necessarily need all of those annotations in a drawing like this. Before I go any further, I think what I'll do is I'll put the walls and the roof drawing on underlay, because they're kind of a little bit off according to the structural drawing. So now we can see them behind. So now we've got a better idea as to how the structure works, and I'm assuming here that the structure is measured correctly, and that the roof does slope like this, which I think it does from memory, and it's not flat like it is in the other drawing here. But again, you get a chance to verify all that stuff in here. So let's just center this stuff on the page like that, and I'm going to switch let's just play with the graphic display just to start getting it up and running. So we can do some things like we can switch on the shadows and the ambient shadows to start with. If we do that, we start to get something that, and I'll tell you what I'll do as well, I'll change the far clip to 6 meters so that we can see the wall in the background. Well, we will be when we switch it off underlay again. And let's just play with that so we get a kind of a highly lit model, so it's not overwhelming, because if you switch on the shadows, they automatically come in very, very dark. But you can play with that, so you just start to get something that's they give a sensation of depth, but they don't overwhelm the drawing. So you can turn them down and get something that's kind of gives you a sensation of depth in the project, but doesn't overwhelm it. So let's just for the sake of it, we'll switch this back from underlay again, so we can see how it casts shadows in the background. So it's kind of starting to do something for us there. The other thing that's the traditional way to set up a measured drawing of a historical building is to take a sun light from the top left at a 45-degree angle. And that's just the way it's done. If you see it in watercolor drawings from 1850, that's the way it's always done. But they had to calculate the shadows manually, like I did when I went to school. But we don't have to do that. So we can set the sun settings, and we can just set sunlight from top left. It's as simple as that. Just apply it, and you can see we get these high quality shadows showing all the railings and everything in there. It gives a great sense of depth into the quality of the drawing itself. And the last thing we can do is we can just come in here, go into the background, and we can give it a gradient. We can modify the colors if we want, and we can switch off the box around it, so we get something that looks like that as a kind of a basis for the technical drawing. Does that make sense? Is it too fast? No. It's all on video anyway. All right. So now, once we have the model set up, let's say we're completely happy with the model here, and I'll tell you what, I'm just going to underlay the background again, because it's kind of confusing at the moment. We can come in here, and there's a couple of things we can do. First of all, we should start to make some symbols as to what this is a beam, so we should start to use the symbols that we use. So everything we do from now on is pretty much within this panel here. This is all these 6 buttons are everything that you use to draw a technical drawing in Revit after the model is set up. And if you're ever going to start using shortcuts, as in keyboard shortcuts, I recommend you start using keyboard shortcuts, because it's going to be so painful. Every time you want to draw a line, you go into Annotate, Detail Line, da 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 da. It starts to get painful after a while. So if you start to use the DL shortcut, it'll automatically switch on the detail line for you. So DL is a good one to know. So then we can just start by drawing thin lines. So for example, we can start to draw a line across here to make it look like a beam, like that. And we can go around kind of methodically and start to fill in the symbols as we go around. And the other thing we can do, which is very useful, is we can use this modify. And there's another shortcut that's really good to know here called LW. It stands for line work, because the model doesn't necessarily generate the correct line work as you want to have it graphically within your drawing. So if you press line work here, it gives us the option. So if I change this to thick lines, I can go around and decide, well, I want to have this as a thick line all the way around. I could modify how the line work is displayed, but just in this sectional view. So I can go around and change that. So as I'm making the technical drawing, and the technical drawing is not just, you don't just generate it, I mean, you sketch it up first by hand, then as you go around, you might modify it as you go through the model, because you have supposedly exact dimensions as to where all these structural elements are going to be. So you can start to make it so that when the drawing is actually finished, the sectional elements are kind of punching out of the drawing, so it gives it a much more clear idea as to how the depth of the drawing is generated and so on. So that's this little button up here, or LW, which is again, it's a good shortcut to just have at the tips of your fingers. All the shortcuts you can change to whatever you want as well, if you want to get into the menu. But you know, you might as well use the basic ones that they have set up. But if you're used to using AutoCAD or something, you can change the shortcuts so that they're the same as the AutoCAD shortcuts if you want to. Okay, so that's kind of just polishing up the model stuff to get it ready for yeah, start doing technical drawings. So if I type detail line now, I can start to choose lines here by using this green line button. Let's say I wanted to come over here and I want to make, let's say, 50 mils of insulation just lying on top of this rafter. Maybe that's the way I've justified it. I can select this line, and then I can use the offset, shortcut OF, to offset and give it a 50 millimeter offset. And you can see that it shows me a kind of a guide as to where it's going to be, whether it's going to be on that side or that side, depending on where I put the cursor. And so I'm actually starting to draw on the model now. Once I've kind of get some guidelines set up, you can start to make something called regions, and all these they're just shapes that you make that you fill up with hatches. And hatches are just any kind of, well, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to make a filled region here, and I'm going to just start to draw. Oops, let's just make it this way around. I'm going to start to draw just a shape. Like that. I'm just doing it very quickly. And over here it says filled region solid black, and it has some already set up for you, so you don't have to change them. So let's say it's a rigid insulation. Let's give it a diagonal crosshatch and just accept it. And so it's kind of filled it in with insulation there. Now none of what I'm doing here has an effect on the 3D model. If I go back into the 3D model here, it's still exactly the same. It's only in this individual view where you can start to draw these elements. So that's the basic way of starting to set up materials within the walls, if they're not set up correctly already within the model. And usually they're not, because the the walls and the roofs and whatever, they're just layers. They don't have all the edges and stuff. So you have to go into details to start getting into that. The other thing that's really useful is components, detailed components, because you can actually download high quality 2D drawings of a lot of components from industry, or you can make your own. So if I select detailed component here, it's set up for pan tile. What we have in here already, we have something like, we have brick. There's a brick. And we can go and copy that if we wanted to, even though that would be insane to waste all that time, because it's supposed to be about saving you time. Luckily, we have something called repeating detail component. So it's already set up in here as brick. It's the only one in the model is brick. So I can come down here. Let's say there's bricks out here, and I can choose from the model in the background where the bricks are going to start. And if I press space, I can flip them from one side to the other, and then I can just go up and draw bricks all the way up as far as I think they go, like that. And of course, just to keep going with the simple stuff, insulation just has a button. I don't think you might have played with this last semester, I'm not sure, but yeah, insulation is just a line-based element where you can just draw insulation in, and afterwards you can give it a width here or a width up here as to whatever you think it is. So change that to 200, and the insulation comes in here. Okay, does that make sense? Will I pause that for a second, or will I just keep going? Keep going. Okay, so because repeating components are the most useful, it's a good idea if you can set up your own repeating component. So, and again, we're getting into families here. So I'm going to set up just a concrete block just to show you how to set one up. Okay. So first, I'm going to go into New Family, and I'm going to go to Metric Detail Item. You get this, the usual thing. So I'm just going to start setting up a concrete block. So I'm going to start by making a rectangle. And let's just do it from here to here. So just draw a rectangle first of all. And let's assume the block is 190 high. And we'll make the width to be 100. And I'm also going to use the offset tool to make a joint, and let's just, for the sake of this, assume this block has 10mm joints. I'm going to just offset it at the bottom here, and then I'm just going to move it all up into place like this. So there's the basis of it. So now I'm just going to make a filled region like I was talking about. It's already set up for concrete, but we could change it to whatever we want. So let's just leave it at concrete, and just go around and draw a rectangle on top of that and accept it. I'm just going to switch off the line thickness so we can see that a little bit better. And let's just draw a couple of lines in there to make joints. I'm not going to set them back or anything like that. I'm just going to leave them like that. And we can change the type of line. So let's just leave those to light lines. I'm going to leave that to light lines. Switch on the line thickness to see what it looks like. This often doesn't make any difference in the family editor, but if I load that into, I'm just going to leave it family 2 for the moment, load it into the project, you can see it comes in, and at that scale it doesn't look like anything. But if I go into the section, I go to Annotate, Detail Component, Family 2, what does that look like down here? Yeah, something like that. So then we have this family 2 as a block. So if you want to turn it into a repeating component, the easy way to do it is to draw a repeating component like this. Again, select it, edit it, duplicate it, and we'll just call it repeating block. And then we just change the detail type. So we have our block, which is just called family 2 for the moment. We just need to change the distance between it. At the moment it's set up for a brick spacing, it's 66.7, so let's just change it to 200.
That's the 190 plus the 10.
That's the 190 plus the 10 joint. So then you have your own repeating component, which you can stretch as far as you want and use in your project. You know, do whatever you want with it. But you can see it's completely flexible what you do with this stuff because it's only two-dimensional work. The nice thing you can do with this, if you really get into being creative about the repeating components, is you can start to add color to your technical section. So if I start to make a component here, which is we have a pan tile set up. If I start to draw the tiles on top of these rafters here, like that, this is a repeating component. You can see that whoever made this pan tile didn't add any color or any what did I call it? The regions to it. So it's not opaque. It's completely transparent. But we could use that to come in and make a colored tile that relates in some way to the color out there because it's a red tile roof. So I can come into it, edit the family, and you can see that it's made up of several versions of it that are grouped. So I'm going to edit the group until we get right down to the family itself. So there's kind of 3 layers we have to go through here. And now we're in the family itself. It's just a series of lines. So I'm just going to create a filled region, and I'm going to make it a new type of filled region, which I'm going to call, let's just call it pan tile. And then we can change the color to whatever we want it to be. Let's say it's something like that. And we can just pick the edges of where we want the color. And let's just draw the ends of it here as well, where we want the color to be. And we can, well, let's just accept that first of all. So then we have a kind of a red pan tile color up there. But we don't want to see these lines either on the edges, so we can go back and edit the boundary. We can actually change these individual lines to be invisible lines, so that they're not adding anything to the adding anything to the drawing itself, if you know what I mean. So we can change all that, and let's just do one more. I'm going to create a masking region, which is just a blank out. I'm going to draw it in here. Accept it. Now, to test this, you can turn on the hidden lines to see what's in front of what. I can see that the masking region is in front of the lines. So if I select it using tab, I can just press send to back, and we can also select this and send it to the back. So it's not covering up any of the lines when we come into the project. We could also add a hatch to that if we wanted to, but let's just leave it like that for the moment because it's the same thing again. Load it back into the pan tile family. Finish it. No. Finish it. And then load it back into the project, which is called composite example. And you can see that it's starting to blank out the background. Now I would probably fill that either with a masking region or with some kind of concrete texture or whatever to give an idea as to how it works. And that's pretty much all the tools you need to draw in technical design after you get to that stage from the 3D model. That's pretty much it. So I'm just going to save that. Save as project. Put it on the desktop, composite example, save. And now if I want to upload this to Autodesk A360, let me just shut it all down. I go to upload, and here I need to select all the files at the same time. First of all, I need to select the overall file that I use. So let's go into the desktop and find that, which is up here somewhere, composite example. And I'm going to select all the other files as well, which were in my downloads folder, which is here. So there's the beam system, holding down control, the assembly hall stairs, and the walls. Now it's asking me, do I want to make a composite design, or do I just want to upload it as individual files? So I'm going to say composite design, and it's asking me what's the parent file. And the parent file is the one where you assemble it all, which is composite example. And then we just press upload, and the whole thing will come up together. And here's one I made earlier, just like in a cookery show. So it should look like that when you're in your composite design at the end. So I should be able to see that stuff. But on top of that, I should also be able to see any sheets that you got set up. So I've just set up an A0 sheet with the section on it here. So this is where all the title block information and so forth should be filled in. So any sheets that you have in your project will also appear up here. And I'm looking for, you know, a decent sectional drawing like that with the elements all worked out properly, but in detail. Okay? Was that quick? Was that fast? That was a bit too fast maybe, but anyway.